Drinking with Authors may contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Drinking with Authors. I am your host, Erica Lance. With me today is the amazing Nick Smith. Welcome.
Thank you, Erica. How are you?
I am, it's a weird month. I hope everybody else is feeling it because I feel like it's like a really weird month. So I'm just trying to go with it and it gets better, but I'm like, something's in retrograde at this moment. I don't know what it is, but it's terrifying and not great. So
all the things are in retrograde,
all
right?
of them. All of them. Okay, before we dive in so people can join us, let's talk about what we're drinking. So out of my Green Dragon Pub, which is in Alexandria, Virginia, cup, I found this stuff which is V8 pineapple and jalapeno.
Oh, yes.
And I put vodka in it. And all I'm going to say is magic. This is magic right here. So I'm excited for this. And it will help with how this month's been going. What are you drinking with us?
I'm so glad you asked. I'm drinking Cat Noir from the Liberty Vineyard near where I live. So it's got a really cool label. It's a rose. I never tried it, so I'm going to give it a go. Since my books are cat themed, I figured I could drink cat themed.
I think that's a great idea. And you need to uncork it, but you also need to show your books and talk a little bit after you've uncorked about what you write. No, everybody's got to be drinking with me if we're doing this because I'm not doing drinking with authors without the drinks part.
And in vino veritas, right? The more we drink.
That's why I started this whole thing anyway.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Something satisfying about, uncorking a bottle.
I love that it's called Cat Noir. That is so cool. That, and I support local vineyards. Everybody should support local vineyards, local whiskey, local tequila, local moonshine.
Just a little tipple.
So you got to taste and tell us how it is. Your little tipple, and then show us your books.
It's got a very strong bouquet. I'll tell you that. It's good. It's fruity, but it's got a bit of spice to it.
I love that. Okay, hold up your books and tell people what you write.
So I write books about cats who live in a city of their own, kind of cat-centered mystery novels. This is the first one, Milk Treading. And the guy on the cover is Julius Kyle. He's a reporter who works for the local newspaper, the Scratching Post. And he investigates a death. He has to take over from a colleague, jump into a story he knows nothing about. He meets all these crazy cats and dogs. And he just won't keep his mouth shut. He keeps meowing all the wrong things and causing all kinds of trouble.
And the thing about this book, I want to make sure everybody knows is this is not a children's book. This is, outside of the fact that the characters are animals, this is a really gritty book. And, crime, all of that. It's amazing. And it's a 4-part series, right?
That's right, yeah. So I've got the sequel right here, Cat City. This is Moira, Julius's girlfriend. These have beautiful wraparound covers. So I don't know if you can see, but the background is connected with all these books. And look, this one's coming out tomorrow. How cool is that? The Cat Who Stole the Cream. Number 3.
Awesome. And what is number 4?
And then number 4, I can give you a sneak peek.
Oh, sneak peek us.
This one isn't out till next month. Okay, this is The Bay of Hounds. So as you can see, there's a cat and a dog. And they face off in the final book.
That is
dogs
really
and cats
awesome.
living together.
So when does book 4 come out?
The book 4 comes out on June 17th.
So people can get all the books and pre-order book 4. So if they're ravenous readers, they can devour those books. And
that's right. And if they pre-order, they can save some moolah. So I definitely encourage people to do that.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what got you started in this whole writing game, because it's hashtag Nick Smith Films. So you do write films.
I do. Well, I always wanted to make movies. Before I could write, I was drawing like storyboards and doodles and matchstick men. based off of the TV shows I'd be watching or the movies I'd seen. And I just wanted to find different ways to tell stories. And then I started kind of putting those words together and the pictures and writing my own things. My kind of pat answer is I wrote it to make my mom happy. Yeah, to make my mom proud of me. Because she would read me stories when I was a kid. And I thought, well, I want to be a good kid and impress her. So I'll write the kinds of stories that she's reading to me and entertain my family, which was very important.
That's
and then
awesome.
It grew from there.
And so what got you deciding to write actual novels?
I would hear about these authors. Douglas Adams comes to mind, who would have all these great ideas and put them into full books and then sell them and make lots of money and have a big house and a swimming pool. And that was the dream, right? So I thought I can do that. The big authors get the most press. So you kind of see them, the Stephen Kings of this world. You're like, well, that doesn't seem impossible. If they can do it, I'm going to try and do it too. So I focused on novels as the most commercial thing to write, but I write everything, magazine articles, short stories, screenplays, you mentioned, comic strips, you name it.
Which is amazing because a lot of authors have a problem writing even like short stories versus novels or novels versus short stories. And even like prose is interesting because writing an article is very different than writing a even a short story, right? Or even a comic strip, right? Because the thing about comic strips and even movies is there's a lot of showing versus telling.
There's a lot of showing, and that's an art form in itself, for sure. Figuring out what you can show people, what you can tell people. Even with documentaries, I'm editing a documentary right now, and the producers, they might hate me for saying this, but they want to spell everything out. They want like captions telling you what's happening. They want a voiceover telling you what's happening. But all you need is the pictures. Maybe a little bit of music to get you, helping you feel something. But those visuals can really, they tell 1,000 times the words, right?
Yeah, no, and the best documentaries are not ones that do a lot of that. You hear the story from the people you're doing the documentary on, or that witness the documentary or whatever. And it's really how I feel like, and it's true with, I'm saying this, but it's true with any sort of storytelling, is how do you reveal the big reveal at the end, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it in such a way that you are building that tension and building that story, and you're just kind of like going, this happened, this exactly happened, nobody, like the documentaries that you see nowadays, like I just watched the one on the Oklahoma City bombing, and there's a whole bunch of stuff I had no idea. And of course, I was alive during that time and not a youngin', unfortunately. I remember all that. I remember all the big hairdos and the poofy sleeves everybody had when they went to work that day.
But the news coverage was all we were getting, what the media wanted us to see or had time to show us. But there was a lot more going on behind the scenes.
And I think that's interesting when you can do that. But I anyway, that's a tangent. Ooh, vodka and pineapple juice got me on a tangent.
Jalapenos. The challenge is to, take prose, take a story like this and keep those visuals, create those pictures that people can see. We don't live in a cat city. Some of us go to cat cafes or drink cat wine, but, we can't visit this city, but we can envisage it. We can imagine it. And actually, some people have said to me, that was based on my city, right? Wherever they're from. They're like, oh, yeah, that was based on Chicago, or that was based on Edinburgh, or wherever they're from, because they see tiny bits of detail that remind them of their own homes.
So let's talk about the feedback from this book, like this book series. So 1 through 3 are basically out, or about to. 3's about to be out. But what has the feedback been like to you on this? Because you kind of went in a little bit of a different direction because you went outside of a children's story or a younger story with animals. Most of the time that happens. A lot of people are stepping out of that now and doing adult stories, but I think that it's new. It's like a sort of newer way to tell a story. What has that feedback been like?
The feedback has been positive. I haven't had anyone say, hey, this is supposed to be for kids, man. What are you doing? You know, they've gone with it because I just try and make it as, you know, building that world, make it as real as possible. I don't talk down to the audience. I try and go easy on the cat and dog puns, but that is very hard, you know. So
well, one should not go easy on cat and or dog puns. I think they're very important for any animal story.
It could be a drinking game if you're reading at home. And
what is the drinking game? Let's create it right now. What's the drinking game?
Every time purr, you know, you see a purr in perfect or something like that.
I feel like you're going to be super drunk by the end of book one.
Yes. So yeah, it's not a kid's book, but also it's something that would make sense to younger readers because, you know, cats, they're soft and fluffy on the outside, but they're also hunter-killers on the inside.
Cats are I have cats. I had cats. I have dogs now, but I had cats, and cats are a whole interesting animal because there's not a lot of consistency, I feel like. You know what I mean? When it comes to cats, because they can be the most loving things in the world and they can be the most horrifically mean things in the world. And that could just be on any given day. The same cat could be that way both. Yeah. So do you have cats in your life that you base these characters on?
So I live with my son and he loves cats. I don't know if I guess I was a good influence. He's got 3. He's got Wee Sam, Tiny Tim, and August. Very different personalities. Then the neighbor's cat comes to visit, comes inside, eats, and then leaves. And they're like a tag team, right? So you take care of one, you feed one, you give one attention, he goes away, and then another one wants attention. And then the third one wants to go outside. So it's a full-time job, for sure. So, but I get to study them and write about them and understand their behavior a little bit and write about it.
Where did this idea come from then?
I've always had cats in my life, you know, growing up. And I was always being told, write what you know, especially if you're writing your first novel. So I'm like, okay, I know about cats. And then there was just this idea popped in my head about these cat mysteries. And I just had to write that first book. I had that burning desire, you know, to get it written, which really propelled me to get it done with everything else going on in my life. And it spoke to me. And luckily, that kind of connected with readers as well.
No, I mean, that's always awesome especially when you are easily connecting with readers and they don't have to adjust to your brain. Okay. So you've got 4 cat books. What else is coming? Like where else are you going? Where is the mind of Nick Smith going?
Well, you know, definitely after writing about so many cats and dogs, I have to write some about humans before people think I'm totally, bonkers.
I think everything you ever write should just be about cats.
Just cats.
And like by book 20, people are going to be like, I think there's something wrong with him.
I do throw a cow in one of the books just to get people thinking, what? Cow? What? Well, where do they get all the milk from, right? So it's a challenge, right, about real people, their real problems. Even though the cat books are social commentary, I still needed to ground myself more. So I went totally into a fantasy land for a trilogy called Dawnfire Rising, where a regular kid who's kind of amoral, these days there are gray areas, not just black and white. And he goes to this fantasy land where everything is very black and white. There's right and there's wrong. There's good and evil. So the story's really about where is his place in that? Should he become a better person to fit in, or are they going to adapt to his amorality?
Yeah, it's, it's very interesting. I was having actually kind of a deep conversation the other day about the fact that, even I grew up in the 80s, right? That was a whole, like, you look at the 60s, there was a revolution with the youth of the 60s, which really did a pivotal change, I think, in this country, where, it was not like we're going to follow this norm anymore.
No, I never trust anyone over 30. Yeah.
And then you end up, like, I grew up in the 80s, and that again was a whole other time, right? Where, you had punk was really popular in the 80s, hair bands and all this, but it was interesting what we considered right and wrong growing up and what is considered right and wrong now, right? And some people go, oh, this is such a woke culture. And I go, no, this is an evolved culture, because you have to evolve past a certain point. Like, there was a certain point in history where you get if you did something wrong, there was a belt or a switch or something like that coming out, and you don't have that the same way, hopefully. You know what I mean? It's like, this is how you should punish children, is beating the crap out of them. But there was a time that was completely normal. Teachers hitting you with rulers and stuff like that. Definitely, and now, like, a teacher hitting a kid with a ruler would be all over social media. Like, that would be the end of that teacher. So I love that concept, because it is like, how do you balance that?
Yeah. Yeah. If you think about the Wild West, which wasn't that long ago,
no,
just 100 years ago, and with casual violence, definitely, physical discipline. And it was a lot rougher back then. It was wild. So putting a modern, teenager into the Wild West, or into a kind of, swords and dragons type of fantasy world, really makes us think about where we're going as people, as parents, as, people growing up.
It's true. And I think it's in, the other interesting thing to me, as my vodka-fueled brain is now thinking about this, which may or may not be helpful. We don't know. It's crapshoot. Is that a lot of stories have so much, like, these are the good people, these are the bad people, right? And it's degrees of the good people doing something bad, whoa, and versus, like, and I'm talking mainly fantasy stories. There's not a lot of morally gray people, and or people that have mainly gray area, versus I know it's right, I know it's wrong, I know it, it's like the chaotic neutral character of it all, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, as I do, so let's talk a little bit about the difference between, because I'm just winging it, difference between writing, like, scripts and stuff, and then being able to switch to writing novels, because all the exposition that you don't put over here in your friend the script that you have to fill there, do you find that difficult at all when you're doing it, not having enough descriptives or having too many on the other side? Where do you wind up on that?
I definitely have to switch my brain a lot. I do like, cutting from one to the other, to use a screenwriting term. We're cutting to this thing. Whether it's writing a nonfiction piece or a screenplay or a novel, if I'm stuck on one, I can go work on another. Or if I'm, I've got my short attention span, I'm like, okay, I'll go do something else. Back to the novel. Screenwriting is like baby writing almost. You're using very small words because you want that immediacy. You want people really feeling like it's happening right now, that they're seeing it happen before their eyes. Whereas with a novel, it could be more of a think piece. Like, I'm going to reflect on my childhood for 20 pages. Can't do that so well in a script. And really, when you have an idea, the idea will tell you, this is a screenplay idea, this is a poem, this is a short story, or it's a bigger idea. There could be 4 novels. So really the idea drives the style that I'm writing in. So if I'm doing an action, bing, bang, boom story, I can go put the bing, bang, booms in a screenplay. And then if I want to write a beautiful romance about an older couple, I might choose to do that in prose, or it might choose for me. So yeah, it's not easy to switch from one to the other, but I find it healthy to do that.
Well, I think it's a skill, because as a writer, it can be, harder to go, I need to add, I need to take away, because, seeing as many books and stuff as we all have, there are some people that go way too much exposition. You're like, oh, dear God, please stop what you're doing, because I can't go down this exposition highway with you anymore. Like the Plains of Passage that describes all of the wheat in great detail. And you're like, oh, dear God, can I skip ahead 3 pages? Okay, we're done talking about that piece of wheat. Moving on to the story.
Yeah.
And then there are some that you're like, wait, where are we? What just happened?
Yeah, yeah. Like there's different audiences for the documentary I mentioned. They've shown a rough cut to different viewers, and some of them wanted everything to be explained and spelled out. And they were like, oh, I forgot what was happening. Whereas other viewers were like, get on with it. We want to see what happens next. So I try and bear different kinds of readers in mind. There are people who are really into wheat and they want to read more about their wheat. Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't have to write more about the wheat. There is the internet now. So if you really want to know about the wheat, you can Google it.
Mm-hmm. The hyperlink, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just add hyperlinks to, if you want more about this scarf material, go here.
Go to Wikipedia.
What about reading? Do you get a chance to do a lot of reading?
I do. I'm a Dippin' Dot when it comes to reading, because I like to create as much as possible. I just read bits and pieces here and there. I have huge piles of books and magazines and comics in my room, and I'm just like, oh, I haven't seen this for a while, or this really would inspire me right now. I'm always looking for inspiration. But it does feel good to finish a book. I still love the feel of having a physical book in my hands, and like, oh yeah, I finished the book, great. Yeah, so I read a lot. I'm a voracious reader for sure.
That's very cool. I find I don't have nearly as much time to read. I do a lot of audiobooks because I just do not have the time to read. I wish I did, but I find like, oh, I'm going to go do laundry. Bloop, let me go. Let me go listen to this audiobook right now.
I listen to a lot of British audio dramas to fill in those little bits of time, or the long drives. And it kind of keeps me rooted to where I grew up in England, but also they are very well written and well acted, and they're a form of escape, like a good book. They just take you somewhere else for 5 minutes.
No, it's true. So let's talk about the difference in writing, because you're in the States now, writing in the States versus writing overseas. Do you feel like there's a whole big difference, like if you're writing for a British crowd versus an American crowd?
Not so much. The big differences are grammatical, the spelling differences. One of the first jobs I had when I moved to America was a journalist for a weekly newspaper, the city paper in Charleston, South Carolina. And that took me a while. That was a pain, like having to check all of my spellings and the way I was wording things, so that my American editor could understand and then the readers could understand. I put a word in like punters or petrol, and my editor would be like, what are punters? What are you talking about? So I had to kind of switch my brain for that. But as far as the actual readers, they're all, they're intelligent. I think they like some of the British quirks that I keep in my books. I hope so.
Well, I'm sure readers do. I mean, you're never going to please everybody. That's the fun part of this. So have you actually been at any conventions yet with these books?
No, I have not. I'm looking forward to Indie PopCon in June, because, I've always loved going to different kinds of conventions. I go to Pensacon a lot in Pensacola because I used to live in that area.
Oh, yeah.
I love just seeing everyone enthusiastic about, cult stuff, sci-fi, fantasy, getting dressed up, They're like, it's a tribe. So I'm stoked that I'll actually be a guest at this con. It's my first time being a convention guest.
Oh, wow.
Dream come true. Yeah. So I get to go to Indianapolis. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's going to be fun. It'll be interesting to see when your fan interaction, because I think having I don't know if you've had the opportunity to have fan interaction before. What's that been like? I love fan interaction. I'm waiting for people to dress and cosplay as the characters from this book series.
That would be so cool. You know, I've done a lot of signings. The first signing I did, this guy came up to me and he wanted his picture taken with me. And I'm like, why do you want like a selfie picture with me? That feels so strange to me. But you get used to it. And some signings are great for the ego, and you got a long line of people who want to see you. And other signings, only 2 people and their pet pot-bellied pig turn up. And that kind of brings you back down to earth. So I would call that fan interaction. Some of it is, for sure.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think that when you have that, I mean, you have an impact on people, you know, and they want to have a memory of that impact. And oh my gosh, like people get so excited. Oh my gosh, I met Nick Smith, blah, blah, blah. And they're telling people, and they're so, I met this author, and we're going, I'm just glad you bought the book. Like,
yeah, exactly. My life feels so messy, you know, I'm trying to maybe squeeze a signing in a day of teaching and writing and recording. But to them, this is, you know, what they're coming to see. So life is
Ambassador of Cryptids. We love Nick.
Thank you, Ambassador.
I don't know who the Ambassador of the Cryptids is, but that sounds like a badass title to have on top of everything. Like,
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to be the Ambassador of the Cryptids. Do you then speak on behalf of Bigfoot? Like, is that your job?
Maybe. We shall find out.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I do an audio drama called The Scarab Archives. I'm one of the actors. It's a really good creepy podcast, which has been going for several years now. And I was so excited when we found out that there was fan fiction. So people had listened to it and then written their own fiction and even done illustrations of our characters. So it's something you would not imagine. It's something you wouldn't necessarily feel worthy of. But it was like, we've got fanfic. What's going on here? That was fun.
Here we go. This is who Ambassador of the Cryptid is.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Shannon.
One of the things I think is interesting is, as authors, we tend to have some of the worst imposter syndrome because our feedback is generally not instantaneous at all. Like, and a lot of people who like our books don't necessarily write reviews. They secretly like our books or talk to other people about our books. We don't hear any of that. So we're like, hello? Hello? Is anybody out there that wants to read our stuff? So when somebody does, you're like, what? Yes, I will sign all of your things. I will sign them all. I will do the signings, you know?
Well, my dad, who's a wonderful man who lives in England, he keeps me grounded. He's like, yeah, all those reviews, son, I wrote all those. You know, don't pay any attention to them. I made up all these different names. And I'm like, okay, thanks, Dad. Thanks for making me feel
I would be
special.
Like, can I engage your dad to be my biggest fan too? Because that would be cool if he'll do that. What has that been like as far as your family goes, and the stories? What, you know, you were talking about living with your son. Does your son enjoy reading your stories?
He does, yeah. He's very, again, keeps me very grounded about it. He's not like, woohoo, you got another book out. He's like, okay, can we go watch cartoons now? He he did record my my unboxing, the last unboxing I did, which is when I first received these books, which was really cool. So not only to have him involved, but also to share that moment with him. That made me feel really good. So he's just gonna have to film the next one too.
No, that's awesome. That is amazing. I think it's great because I think friends and family want to be supportive, but sometimes we forget they don't necessarily read our genres. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They want to be supportive, but they go, this is terrifying. You need, like my daughter reads some of my name I write, Dahlia Lance, my humorous erotica, which my daughter's an adult, everyone, so don't get all excited about it. She's in her late 20s. But she doesn't like my horror stories. She's like, no, Mom, I want to sleep at night. So I'm not reading any more of your stuff because I kept her up one night, apparently, with a short story. So whatever. That's actually my goal, is to keep people up with short stories. So, but let's talk about making, because you could easily turn these books into films. Have you thought about, like, if you could perfectly cast the movie, who would be your main characters?
I would be calling in all my favors, because I do work in the film industry. I did work with Pedro Pascal on a reboot they tried of Charlie's Angels, and I would be reaching out to him and saying, Pedro, you got to play one of these cats. It's just a voice. Come on. And see if he could give me the family discount. There's some amazing actors out there, for sure. Trying to think. I thought of Ron Perlman the other day. Would be great to play the mayor of the city, right? I don't know if you remember Beauty and the Beast. He was so good in that, and Hellboy. But I
love Ron Perlman.
Yeah, with gravitas, with the big booming voice. He could nail that character, who is a lion and is very proud to be running the city.
I love that. So is there a character you'd want to voice?
Usually I'm the one who just has the voice, whatever, whoever has to be voiced, I'm there. NPR picked me up, all things considered. So I got to produce, just pieces of the book for them. So whether it was female characters or male characters, I was able to voice those. I got to voice Camilla, who is a preening kind of matriarch of the city. So she's looking in the mirror and she thinks she looks so wonderful. That was fun.
I love everything about that. Okay, so when you're writing and doing all this stuff that you're doing, are there snacks that you like?
Oh my goodness. I do like my British snacks. Licorice all sorts. There's like the licorice with the sugar candy stuff. Jammy Dodgers. What else? Those are my two go-tos as far as snacks. But I like circus peanuts and candy corn, so I don't know if you want to listen to me.
All you've mentioned is sugar. Like, it's like 100% sugar rush. You're not even like, I also like some almonds. You're like, no, what I need to do is mainline cotton candy, and that's what will get me through this. You must have a fun high and crash during these snacking bitches.
When I crash, I'm like a puppy. I just keep going and then bloop, I'm done. But I used to work in a call center, and you just get I would do the swing shift, so like 4 to midnight or later. And so you'd bring your 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke just to keep you awake into the night and just keep chugging on that. Sugar, what can I say? It's sweet.
I think that is so hysterical. Also, considering I watch a lot of Great British Baking Show. This is like, I'll even rewatch seasons because I'm like, this is so relaxing. They're so pleasant to each other. Like, it's actually, I feel like, changed some of the cooking shows in the US that were like, you're fired. There, some cooking shows are getting a lot nicer about, because that show, they're not mean to each other. So I love watching it. But what I did notice is anytime they cook American dishes, which is not every season but they'll make like an American apple pie.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they're like, oh my gosh, it's so sweet, you know? And I'm like, what? That's not even like our sweetest thing. We're like, let's get you a pound of strawberry shortcake.
But for them, it's sweet. I do like my savories too, like hula hoops, twiglets. They're great. They're like almost like twigs coated in Marmite, as Mr. Bean joked about once. But they are Moorish.
I absolutely love you just said a bunch of British words that anybody watching is going to be like, what did he just say?
Twig.
Yeah, he's eating twigs. Yes, the British eat twigs. I'm not sure everybody's aware of that fact. I'm just kidding.
Nuts and twigs. Yeah. Eric, what's your favorite snack when you're writing?
When I'm writing, probably almost anything gummy. I like even the nerd coated gummies and lifesaver gummies. Like I like gummies. One thing that's been very unfortunate for me, which is not bad when it comes to candy from England, for instance, but here in America, everybody's putting coconut oil in everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I am like anaphylactic shock allergic to coconut. So even ice cream now. So what they decided was that soy lecithin, I think is what it was used previously, is way too dangerous for the public. So they switched it out. But here's the thing. They didn't tell anybody that they switched it out. It doesn't say it on the packaging.
You're not even going to read. Yeah.
And so I discovered this because ice cream, which was the dumbest thing, like they're using it to replace the soy in like chocolate and stuff. So now me and my husband spent like 20 minutes one time in an ice cream aisle trying to find any chocolate ice cream that didn't have coconut in it. We were unsuccessful. But then it made me start reading all these labels and like all these cookies and stuff that didn't have coconut in them before now have coconut. Because it was easy, like Mounds, Almond Joy, like the macaroons with not the macarons, but the macaroons. You know, like I was like, this is easy. I can avoid coconut. Not anymore. So there's gummies. I like gummies. Yeah. I actually also like a charcuterie tray. I know that sounds weird, but like meat and cheese. No,
it's up and coming. Yeah.
And especially if I have wine. I mean, I'll say by the end of the bottle or into the next one, I don't know that my writing's any good, but I am having a blast putting words that I later go back and read and go, this was a terrible plan. Why did I do this?
It wasn't your fault. It was the wine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes I write stuff and I'm like, those are just sounds. That's not even words. What did I think I was writing?
You blame it on the Cat Noir or something.
Yes.
Or I wrote it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm also a cheap date when it comes to wine. I like 19 crimes.
What a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was like, look, a red blend that's consistent. Yes, we'll do that.
Yeah, that's the great idea.
But okay, so you're working on fantasy novels, and you said it's a trilogy?
That's right. Yeah. So the kind of overarching name is Dawnfire Rising. The first book is called Into the Shadows, and the sequel is Out of the Darkness. So quite kind of breathless stories, but they actually really describe what's going on with these main characters who are trying to deal with real life and also monsters and warriors and people trying to chop their heads off and things like that.
Oh my gosh. That's hysterical, because I also think of what it would be like truly if you put a real life teenager into that without a cell phone.
Right. He wants to go home and watch cartoons and play video games, but he's too busy, trying to deal with a wizard's spell that's going to turn him into who knows what. No spoilers.
No spoilers. But what's interesting, if you think about it, is video games, we get to redo that boss level when we're killed. Yeah, when something like that being teleported into a realm happens, you don't get to redo the boss level. Like you have one shot at that boss level, and that's
yeah. If the boss is too big, forget it.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. So what was the last great book you read?
I read a really cool book by Tabitha Vincent called Wayward Lives. And it's a series of stories that are interconnected. And it's people who go to the afterlife. Most of them are assholes, female and male. And some of them are sent back to kind of guide people when they die. Others are just trying to deal with life in hell. And it was just so beautifully written, and the characters are really rich, and it was funny. So, yeah, I like that one. I read a lot of nonfiction as well.
Do you write reviews?
I do write reviews, but just now and again. Yeah.
Not all the time?
No, I wish I had more time to do the things. It is good to kind of have the variety. I can write a scholarly essay, or I could write a review of a TV show. I write for a blog called Generation Star Wars. So I get to write about all the culty stuff, all the sci-fi stuff. They have me writing about Alien a lot for some reason, but it's fun. Yeah.
The movie Alien?
The movie Alien and all its many, many, many spin-offs.
Aliens is my favorite movie of all time. You can barely see it, but right there is an alien stuffed animal my son gave me. You unzipper the mouth and the little thing comes out.
What an incredible movie. And
it was. It still holds up to me, and it had one of the best casts. Mm-hmm. And it's still terrifying. Like, I think Aliens, the creatures in Aliens, are thoroughly terrifying because they're a pack animal, basically. And,
right.
The blood for acid, like, this was very well thought out because they're dark. They come at you. They can crawl on the ceilings, all of that. And you can't really shoot them because then you get sprayed with blood and then you start having problems. So
yeah, but it works so well because they're real. They're not all CGI. They're not flimsy or translucent.
Yeah,
they really look like they could bite you and do some damage.
Yes,
they make weird noises too.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that I watched for it was on Netflix. They had the favorite movies, like it was the behind the scenes thing with it. And actually they just had it released a Blu-ray of Aliens with a bunch of behind the scenes interviews and stuff like that, which it was a crowdfunding. I bought it because I'm an addict and have a problem.
Yeah.
But one of the things I thought was really funny about this, and I think you would find humor just because you're in the film industry, is apparently they announced that it was coming and Sigourney Weaver is going to be in it before negotiating a contract with her. So when they called her, she was like, I saw the announcement about it. And she got paid the highest at that time a female actress had ever been paid. I think they had like a $15 million budget, which now seems like you couldn't make anything for $15 million. But had a $15 million budget and they had to give $1 million of it to her to pay because they already announced she was going to do the movie before actually talking to her. So
I thought they gave her that money because she was awesome and because the audience wanted Ripley.
She is awesome, but a way to negotiate a contract is have them talk about this and forget to actually have you sign before they announce it.
Well, those agents, they are cutthroat. I deal with agents a lot, and they are always trying to get more money for their client and get the best deal they can. They're like pit bulls, the good agents.
Well, I mean, that's why they're good agents. Okay, we're going to have to wrap soon, but I do have a question for you. And I don't mean like Run DMC because I'm no good at that, and I don't think we should even attempt it. But what is something that you would love to write, but you haven't either had the opportunity or don't feel comfortable in the genre?
That's a really good question because I've tried most genres. I'd like to write a rom-com. I've got ideas for romantic comedy novels or movies, just about, relationships gone awry, and I think it would be a lot of fun. I know people who really love romantic comedies. I like a good romantic comedy.
Me too.
To find a way to do it freshly, to really have fun with it, to skirt around the tropes and the cliches without falling into the boring bits of those would be a lot of fun.
No, I think that could be fun. I would say too, though, that Hallmark Channel proves that people love those tropes and cliches. The raccoon mountain doctor that falls in love with a girl that opens a gluten-free bakery in some obscure town in Montana because her grandmother is sick and she's caring for her, but she decides to stay because of the vet. And I just make these up off the top of my head, but I think they could actually legitimately be Hallmark movies. I don't know, maybe copyright infringement, who knows? But there is something to be said because people love that. They love the fantasy world. But I am excited if you do that to see what you come up with. Because
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. This is your podcast. Go ahead.
There's a movie I produced called Zombies. I have to mention it if Shannon is watching because he was an associate producer on it. But I'm wearing the t-shirt, Zombies, which is about killer mutant bees, killer mutant zombie bees that come back to life and eat people. But we also had a Hallmark romance angle to it. The writer-director, Alicia Marie, she wanted to play with that, to have the guy who has to come and help save the town from the bees left the girl at the altar, who's also the coroner, and they have to work together, and it's really awkward. Will they end up together or not? So we have that whole kind of through line going on, and people really responded to that. It was fun.
That sounds amazing, and I love that it's zombie bees. That is
with zombie bees. Yeah.
Oh my God, that sounds so amazing. Is this movie out yet?
It is, yeah. It's on Tubi and Plex and all those streaming services, Amazon.
See, now I know what I'm doing this weekend with my other cans of this because it comes in a 6-pack.
Oh, yes.
Me and my vodka and my drinks are going to sit down and watch Zombies.
It's definitely a good drinking sci-fi channel type B movie.
That sure. And snacks. I'm just going to be like, drink snacks.
But no coconut. Yeah.
No, with no coconut, I cannot. No, anaphylactic shock. EpiPens in the United States are way too much money. Okay.
Someone said to me the other day I should do a zombies themed EpiPen, so that could be merchandise that we would give to people with the Zombies movie on it.
Hey, if you do that, let me know because I'm all about that. Don't get wrong. Okay. A friend of mine went to Australia and brought back 2 EpiPens. They were $30 a piece. Here they're like $400, and I'm
no, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I just get my friends that travel. I'm like, where are you going? Can you get me an EpiPen while you're there?
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, so we have to wrap up, which is terrible because I know we could talk for hours and hours. But
definitely.
Tell people where it's best to go find you.
So please go to #NickSmithFilms. You'll find my Instagram. You'll find my YouTube channel. You can go to nicksmithfilms.com, which is my website, and you'll see all, lots of goodies. I especially encourage you to go to the YouTube channel because it's free. It's my favorite price. And you can see trailers for the movies I've been talking about. You can see podcasts like this. So come on over and say hello.
Absolutely. Well, it has been wonderful having you here with me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everybody should get these books immediately. I think it's vital that happens. And the first one's Milk Treading, right? Yes.
Milk Treading is a good place to start. If you do read it, please leave a review on Amazon or Goodreads or somewhere like that. Hopefully a good review, but just tell other people about it.
At least an entertaining review, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I always tell people one of my favorite reviews I ever got was Erica Lance is an author that likes to punch you in the effing face.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'll take that. I'll take it. That'll be good.
It's still a review.
Yes, it's still a review, and I'm like, I think there are people that do want to be punched in the face. That'll work out for me.
I think David Letterman, he said nice things about that book, but also he said it'll make you scared of your cat, it'll make you look twice at your kitty.
I could just imagine looking at the book and looking over at the cat being like, you're going to sleep in the other room.
Yeah. Go solve a crime somewhere else.
Oh my gosh. Nick, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, everybody who popped in. Shannon.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet the ambassador of the cryptids. I love that. And don't forget, like, subscribe. You can also find all of the ways to contact Nick in the show notes. And we will see you next Thursday for another episode of Drinking with Authors.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Drinking with Authors. Join us next time for another fun conversation with an author over drinks.